Quick disclaimer before we start. This talk is not going to be about tools. It's not going to be about whether Claude Code is better than Codex. And it's not going to give you any prompt engineering tips. This talk is about us and what happens to us, the people who build software, once our software starts building itself. A bit about me. I'm Tom. I've been working at Wix for 14 years now. A lot. Been writing code since I was 12. My background is in philosophy and psychology, actually. And in 2018, I gave a talk titled Software Engineering as a Philosophical Activity. Like any great TV show, the sequel took a while, 8 years in this case. But here we are. Back then, I wrote about what we were. This talk is going to be about what we are becoming. And to start things off, I have a confession to make. Last week, I shipped code that I don't understand. It was actually in a programming language, which I'm not even fluent in. A year ago, this probably would have been a fireable offense. There's no way I would stand on stage in a Wix engineering conference, my employers are here, and say this sentence. Now, it was just another Tuesday. The best engineers that I know have been having more and more of these days recently. And that leaves a feeling in the hallway of every major tech company that I know. A feeling that's very inconvenient for us to talk about. That feeling of existential fear. Because if AI writes all the code, what are you here for? Is the job that we worked for decades in perfecting and improving, is it completely obsolete now? Are we replaceable? If anyone tells you that they're not scared, let me tell you this, they're probably lying. Everyone is thinking about this. I can feel this everywhere. And I want us to look at that and to be with that for a moment. And here's where things get really, really strange. You know that code that I told you about that I didn't write in a language that I didn't understand? Well, guess what? I was freaking proud of it. And that's really weird, right? I mean, I'm telling you that this is code that I did not write and I'm proud of it. It's a paradox. It's either if someone else wrote it, I can't be proud of it. And if I'm proud of it, there's no way someone else wrote it, right? But today I'm going to show you that this paradox is completely true and that both parts of the sentence are true, and we're going to understand how and why. To start untangling this, I want to go to two major voices. One, Uncle Bob Martin, the clean code guy. The guy who taught us the importance of writing great code and structuring our code in a good way. Look at what he's saying not too long ago. He's saying that what we are losing with AI is syntax and good riddance. The less our brains are occupied by semicolons and braces, the better. There are much more interesting things for us to consider. He's basically saying that code was never really the building. Code was just the scaffolding. And guess what? I just want to say, Uncle Bob, yeah, this is not like some tech hippie. It's not a tech optimist. This is a very serious guy, right? And I want to say that we've actually been here before. When you think about the development of programming languages, we always moved up the ladder of abstraction. We moved from assembly to C, managed languages, frameworks. Each time that we climbed up the ladder of abstraction, there was someone there screaming, "Hey, what are you doing? What you're doing here is not real engineering. Real engineering is here below." And each time, these people were completely wrong. Because when we move up the ladder of abstraction, we're actually dealing with more interesting problems. It frees us to deal with those problems. So maybe this is just another rung in the ladder. But this one does feel a bit different. You've probably seen this tweet, Karpathy in 2023. The hottest new programming language is English. This also explains to us how I wrote that code that I didn't understand. I obviously wrote it using English. We live in a day and age in which a celebrity, a movie star, can actually release a library, call it the best LLM memory framework, although she never wrote probably code in her life. We live in a day and age where software building has been completely democratized. Anyone can build software. Any kid with a dream, any doctor with a workflow problem, a kindergarten teacher, they can all write software. And this is amazing. The other steps that we saw, the other times, there was a gate. You needed to study computer science. You needed to be comfortable writing code. That's no longer the case. Anyone can write code. But what does that mean for us? We are now standing on the same rung with everyone who speaks English. But I think what we're seeing, what we can see from there, is something completely different. Our job shifted in 3 ways that I'm going to talk about today. In each of them, there is still room and a huge difference between those of us who will do amazing engineering and those of us that, are probably indeed replaceable. So listen carefully. The first thing I want us to look at, the first shift, is how we write code. Not too long ago, writing code was about opening a code editor, you and the blinking cursor staring at you. That was the deal. You were the only thinking participant in the room. Writing code was a monologue. Now, writing code is prompting, it's iterating, it's pushing back. It's a conversation, a dialogue. Now, it turns out that this is not a new concept. Dialogue is a completely different mental activity from a monologue, completely different. 2,400 years ago, the Greek philosopher Socrates had a very special way of conducting philosophy. This guy, he never preached. He never wrote anything, except maybe for this tweet, because, Twitter. He never did anything like that. He just talked to people. He used to go in the streets of Athens and used to ask people, hey, what do you think is good? And he used to talk to them and ask them questions and listen until they reached some kind of truth. He saw his job like a midwife, helping others deliver ideas. He said that you cannot teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. And let me tell you this, Socrates, he would have been amazing at Cloud Code. However, not every chat is really a dialogue. It's not enough that you opened an LLM, that you are now conducting a real dialogue. Socrates would not recognize half of the conversations that I'm having with Codex. I can tell you this for sure. When you are in this kind of state of mind of, make this work, now ship it, make it faster, you're not doing engineering. You're a customer. You are someone going to the mechanic, leaving the car, and saying, I'll get back into you in a few hours to pay the bill. You're not engaged. You're not there. This is not engineering, and this will not yield good results. On the other hand, when you participate in real dialogue, when you ask, why did you choose that approach? What are the assumptions here? What if we change one of them? What happens if traffic 10x's? Then you are involved. Then you are pushing the software to become actually better. So the who changed, right? It's no longer us alone. We do it through a dialogue, which brings up a very interesting question. Who wrote this? Who really wrote this code? If we look at Git playing, it still points at me. But something about that answer feels just not completely right? It doesn't catch the gist of it. 60 years ago, Roland Barthes, a French philosopher, wrote this in a great article called The Death of the Author. He said that any text is basically just a tissue of quotations. Now, he wasn't talking about this day and age. He wasn't talking about interactions with AI. He was talking about regular literature. But this is just a lot more true now. What he's saying basically is that there is no original. And if you think carefully, there actually never was. Think about you when you write code. When you write code in an existing repo. You write using architectures that you learned. You write based on Stack Overflow answers that you've observed. You write using libraries that weren't authored by you. Authorship has always been complex. The single author has always been fiction. In the AI age, we just can no longer sustain it. We can't hide it. It's becoming completely clear. So authorship indeed is distributed. What does that mean, though, about ownership? And this is something we care deeply at here at Wix, right? We talk about this a lot. We like to be owners of our code. It's really crucial. We serve millions of users. Someone has to own this. Who? Wix, I think, is dealing a lot with this question. We're thinking about this hard. The whole industry is. And Vercel, also a company that serves millions of production users, they've also been thinking about it, and they wrote a great manifest called Agent Responsibly. I really suggest reading it. They propose, first of all, this litmus test. When you have AI co-authored code, and you ask yourself if I can merge this pull request, they offer this test. Would you be comfortable owning a production incident tied to this pull request? This is the main answer. I want you to look at this and think hard about this. Look at what it's asking, and notice also what it's not asking. It's not asking, could you explain every line of code? It's not even asking if you understand the full programming language of the code. The experienced engineers in this room know that we never really understood code in this way. Right? We wrote code. It's not like we could recite all of the lines of code that we wrote. We comprehend the software. We know the architecture. We know the strength and the weaknesses. We know where the bodies are buried. This was always the case. They make in this article a great distinction, which I really love. The difference between relying on AI and leveraging it. When you rely on AI, you're basically in a kind of place where you say, the agent wrote it. We can ship it. I don't need to do anything. You outsource your thinking. That does not yield great results. You would not be comfortable waking up in the middle of the night and doing something about something that broke when you are in this kind of state of mind. On the other hand, when you leverage AI, you own the outcome. You know how it behaves. You'd be willing to stand behind it. So while authorship is clearly distributed now, ownership is not. Someone stands behind this, and that someone is you. So the who changed, the how changed. An interesting question that comes to light is, what remains in this kind of interaction truly, uniquely ours? Truly human, if anything? Well, if you ask me, it all comes down to taste. Greg Brockman, president of OpenAI, tweeted this: taste is a new core skill. Now, I don't know about new. Actually, if you look at interviews of Steve Jobs from the 90s, you'll see him talk about taste a lot. But it's definitely a core skill now. But I know what some of you might be thinking here. Taste? Isn't taste just subjective, personal preference? What is taste anyway? Well, I want to tell you a story about taste. I remember as a kid, my parents told me two things about taste. One thing they told me is, yeah, it's personal preference. Anyone is entitled to their own taste. You may think this is beautiful, your sister may think this is ugly, and it's okay. You like to eat this, she likes to eat that. On the other hand, they used to take me to museums. They really loved museums. I hated them as a kid. And they used to show me this Picasso or this Da Vinci, and they used to tell me, this is beautiful. Sometimes I looked at them and I would say, what? This looks like complete nonsense to me. This is not beautiful, but they insisted, this is great art. This is beautiful. So which is it? So I want to ask this room this same question. I want you to look at these two paintings. Look at them hard. One of them is worth $5 million. The other is a sixth grader's. Can you tell which is which? Even if you can't, that's okay. It means you didn't probably go to a lot of museums, but I guarantee you that if you went to a lot of museums or if you studied art, you'd be able to recognize that the one on the left is Juan Miró and the one on the right is that sixth grader. So taste, despite what we're sometimes told, is something real. It's not something subjective, and it's also learnable by experience. Think about yourself. Think about code you wrote 5 years ago. If you look at it now, I bet it looks like complete garbage to you. That's not because your personal preference changed. It's because your sense of smell for good taste, for good design improved. It's because you got better. That is real. Taste alone is not enough, though. Paul Graham wrote this: prediction is that in the AI age, taste will become ever more important. And when anyone can make anything, the big differentiator is becoming what you choose to make. And that's the other piece of the puzzle. Judgment. You choose what to build. You choose what solution to go with. An LLM can offer you 1,000 solutions. Only you know which one is right. The judgment is yours, and that is becoming the work now. Dialogue, ownership, taste. These are not soft skills. These are the engineering skills. In fact, they always were. We just couldn't see it because we were too busy typing. The code got easier. The questions got much harder. And that's the job now. Now I want to leave you with one final question. Given everything we learned here today, who made this presentation? Thank you very much.